Hi everyone, welcome to Girl in the Green Wellies, and this is plot walkthrough number 1. If you like what you see, remember to give us a big thumbs up and subscribe on the link below. So for our first walkthrough, what I thought I would do is show you where we are now and where we've come from. I've had the allotment itself for about 7 or 8 years, but about 2 or 3 years ago I had a really busy year and life kind of got in the way, as it does, and the allotment just went off to the wild, as it were. So when we came back, it had gone massively overgrown. We've had to do a lot of work to get it back to where it is now. So don't be upset or scared if you have an allotment or if you have a garden and you haven't been able to get as much work done as you'd like to. Just a little and often, and you'll see that where we've come from and where we are now, you can achieve big things. So this is the top of the allotment. This is where we come in when we first hit the plot. We've got the shed, and that goes through into the higgledy-piggledy greenhouse. Again, all of this was built and here when I first got the allotment. I know it's a bit rough and ready, but it works, it does the job. It does need a really good clean. It's one of those jobs that I keep putting off and putting off and putting off, but one day I'll get round to it. A couple of years ago, like I said, this part was completely wild, completely overgrown. This tree was massively overhanging the greenhouse and the shed. So we cut it all back. I hope we haven't damaged the tree. It's lovely to get a little bit of shade in the height of summer. So talking a little bit about what we've got, I've got a little potting table here now. I inherited the 2 big blue barrels. One is just general rubbish. This one we've planted some lettuce seedlings in, so hopefully we'll get some cut and come again salad from there, which is great. This is the most untidy part of the allotment at the moment, but it will get better over time. Rhubarb we inherited as well when we first got the allotment. There's a little bit of growth coming on there. I did try and force it one year, and we got really tall, really sweet stems, but it's damaging sometimes to the plant to do that all the time. So this year I'm just letting it go. Fingers crossed we get a good crop from there, whatever type it is. We've now got some daffodils and some tulips planted here. Again, this area was completely wild. The grass was really, really high. This was all grassed as well. So rather than just having it do nothing, I do like to walk into the allotment and see nice things in bloom. It always makes you feel better when you can see things growing in your allotment. So this year I planted a whole selection of tulips. It's sunset mix, so we will get some nice vibrant colours. These ones are Shirley variety, which I just wanted to lighten the area as well. The year before I did try growing some spring bulbs, going through into the summer, but unfortunately we had really bad wind and they got completely battered. So I thought we'll go for something a little bit different. I really like this look. I love the tulips. And then once they've gone down, the plan is to put some just normal summer bedding plants in, and then we'll rejuvenate this area so you'll get some more nice spring flowers next year. So the top area of the plot is more of a garden relaxing area. It's nice to be able to come down, sit, have a nice cup of tea, cold drink after you've done all your work, and just be able to sit down on the grass. Now the grass itself is a work in progress. What I've going to do this year is try and rejuvenate the lawn. We've gotten rid of all the moss, so that's why it looks really patchy at the moment. But grass seed down, and we'll keep on top of it, keep the water going there, keep it down, and hopefully next year we'll have a lovely sitting area. Continuing with the spring theme, we've got daffodils going along this border here. Now we actually border a park, there were loads of brambles along here, which it's sometimes really nice to have that little barrier so you know that you're protected, but they are a nightmare for coming over the fence and rooting in your grass. So that's all being cleared by the park ranger now, so this area is a lot more open, so hopefully that'll improve the airflow. The hanging baskets that we've got left over are from last year's flowers. This year I'm going to try something different. I've got a variety of tomato, which is a tumbling tiger, and hopefully that'll be a nice outdoor crop of tomatoes to grow. There are 3 roses interplanted between the daffodils. I gave these 2 a really hard cut back last winter. This one is beautiful when it flowers. It's a gorgeous pink colour, but have to admit I was really scared to cut it back because it was looking really good. So this top area of the allotment is going to become our sitting and cooking area. When we're cooking or when we're barbecuing, it'll be great to have fresh herbs at hand so we can use them straight away. So in this IKEA recycled cabinet, I've got some herbs planted in here. I've also got some radish and some carrots planted in the other sections. The soil that we've got here at the allotment is clay soil, so I find it's really hard to grow carrots. Although I don't know how, because all the other weeds that we have with really long taproots seem to grow really well, but carrots just don't. So in here we've got some carrots already planted. Hopefully we're going to get a nice crop of those. This will all become a patio and seating area. We've got a barrel barbecue that we can pop in here. It's a nice area, it gets the sun in the afternoon, and it'll be lovely to sit and relax and cook all the things that we've grown straight away, fresh from the plot, with the herbs straight next to them. Now, even though we've got a working allotment, there's no reason why you can't make it pretty. So I really wanted something to have a transition from the garden area to the working allotment, and what better way is a lovely archway. It's all made from things we found on the allotment. This is offcuts from the cherry tree, just made into an archway with branches tied across the top. I've got clematis and honeysuckle planted at the base of each side, so they're going to run over and be lovely flowers, give you a lovely fragrance when you're walking through. And we've actually got a couple of buds and flower buds coming on each side, so in a couple of weeks, fingers crossed, we'll have some nice purple flowers on there. Moving along, just to finish off the top side of the allotment, is the mini orchard. I've got apple trees, there's a pear tree, a plum tree, and a cherry tree as well, and I'm really pleased that they seem to have survived the winter. We've got blossom on one of the apple trees, and I believe it's the cherry tree. I'm not sure whether we're going to actually get any fruit from them this year. It'll be amazing if we do, but I was planning on fruit from these for next year. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to keep them up at the top area of the allotment or whether to move them down at the bottom of the allotment, but at the moment I think they look lovely here. So going through the archway, we come on to the working plot. So when we got back into the allotment a couple of years ago, the weeds and brambles in this area were huge. You couldn't see any of the allotment ground itself. It was really, really high. So what we had to do is get our strimmer and basically strim the whole lot, get rid of all the weeds, and we worked through each section and just try to clear the ground, get it down. We didn't really get an awful lot of produce from here last year. It was more of a clearing up and tidying up year last year, but this year we're in a much better position to start getting things out and planted and start getting some food. So there's two sides to the allotment. This is my side where I'll grow all the veg that I want to. So at the moment I've got garlic planted. This garlic we planted out in October. There's a couple of different varieties which will crop at slightly different times. So hopefully the first lot will be ready to pull out the ground in June this year. This side of the allotment is the kids area. So from here on over is the kids area. One of them wanted some strawberries, so they've got strawberries in there. Underneath all the cardboard there is nothing, it's completely bare, so it's a blank canvas for this year. It's really great for the children to be involved. I think it's good for them to see where food comes from, learn how something big can come from just a small seed, and again it gets them eating food that they might never try. So this area I want to try doing square foot gardening with the children. So we'll divide the areas up into 9 squares and they'll grow different things in each one. We'll grow some climbers, we'll grow some fruit, we'll grow some salad crops, and again they'll be able to taste things that they've never tasted before, and it's a great way to get lots of vegetables and things grow in a small area. So fingers crossed that comes out. So continuing our walk down the allotment, it is quite a fair size, so sometimes it can be a bit daunting when you've got all this area, think what can I plant? But what I've decided to do this year is divide the plot up into smaller chunks, rather than looking at the whole thing and going, oh my gosh, I don't know what to plant or where to plant it. Keeping in mind crop rotation for the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to have no dig beds in here. Again, it's taken a full year to get most of the weeds out of the soil, to get it in a point where we are ready to plant. So in this area here, we're going to have 4 altogether, smaller beds like we've got for the peas. One, digging over an area like this is just so time consuming and backbreaking. I can't give that time anymore because obviously I'm working, so this is just a free time thing. If we do no dig beds, it means that the soil itself is going to be of a much better quality. We can just top it up with compost and mulch every year. We're not spending hours and hours and hours digging, and we're not breaking our backs when we're doing it. We're going to get good crops. So preparing the beds now, spending the time, getting the soil quality at the best that we can, is going to save us hours and hours and days worth of work in the future. So this side of the allotment is for permanent crops, so plants which are going to stay here for a good few years. In this side, I've got some globe artichokes which I started from seed last year. They went in last summer. They died down over the winter, thought I had lost them, but they have come back really strongly this year. We cut off all of the flower heads last year because I wanted the plant's energy to go into the roots, so it's going to give us a really good harvest either this year or next year. The other crop that I've got in this side are strawberries. Kids absolutely love strawberries. The battle is getting them before the birds do, so this year I'm going to net them and make sure that all the strawberries that we get go to us rather than the birds. I'm going to clear away the straw that went down from last year. We'll dig that in and we'll use that to improve the soil in other areas of the allotment. I'll put fresh straw down there in a couple of weeks, keep them well watered. That's going to keep all the weeds down. It's going to keep the ground nice and moist so that the strawberries get all the water that they can to get really plump and juicy. Moving further down, we have got the pot potatoes, which I'm trying for the first time this year. We've got our potato bed here, so the potatoes have been in for a week at this point. I wouldn't expect the leaves to be coming up for another couple of weeks. We do have the chance of late frost coming up towards the middle of May. So I want to make sure that we don't get any frost damage. We've got shallots, which are growing beautifully. I am really pleased with those. If you come down along here, they have put on so much growth in the last 2 weeks, and you can actually see the bulbs splitting now. So I know I'm going to get a really good harvest with those. At the back of the allotment is a park. So again, we used to get brambles running the whole way along. They have just been cleared by the park ranger. For one, it's nice that you're not going to get overhanging branches, but that just takes away all my free blackberries. So I'm going to have to try and source them somewhere else. But yeah, that's the growing area on this side of the plot. So this area of the allotment, we're giving over to nature a little bit. We're not keeping on top of the weeds as much as we would in the growing areas, but we're not going to let them go wild. We are going to plant some flowers here for pollinators, so that when the vegetable plants are flowering, the pollinators are already here to do their magical thing. I have some lavender, we've got some gooseberry bushes. This area will come up with wildflower in the next month or two, fingers crossed. I've got some more cornflowers to plant. I really want nature to have a special place at the allotment, because we have to do our bit to help the bees and help all the other pollinators, because without those there will be no vegetables for us to enjoy. So this is a really nice area for those bees and hoverflies to come and enjoy all the flowers when they do come. We have the big cherry tree here as well. Now it will fruit, it's not an ornamental variety, so we will get some cherries from this. They are super sour though, so they will have to be cooked into cakes and tarts, but there's nothing wrong with that either. Last of all, we have Nature Corner. So welcome to Nature Corner. Last year or the year before, this area was completely unrecognisable as it is today. We had brambles, we had a massive pampas grass, we had all the trees overhanging the allotment were here. This was just full of weeds. There were 2 apple trees here which had been planted as cordon varieties, so that just means on a diagonal, but because my fault entirely, because I hadn't kept on top of them, hadn't kept them pruned, they had got really heavy and they'd actually fallen over. They'd gone past the point of being able to be saved, so sadly we had to chop them down, which is why I really wanted to get the fruit trees, the miniature fruit trees here, because I felt really sad that we weren't going to have fresh apples. So fruit and vegetables together, growing them on the allotment is what I was aiming for, so hopefully we can achieve that with the miniature fruit trees. We've left the stumps as they are because we thought it would be a nice place for birds to come and just sit and perch, so hopefully they'll enjoy their little rest spot. This area is going to be for Andy to do what he wants with, so he's planted some raspberry canes. We've got, no, they're autumn fruit and raspberry canes, so they will grow each year, and then after they've fruited we'll cut them straight down and they'll grow back again the following year to give us a good harvest. We have a bay tree, we have an azalea there as well, and a mystery item in the back, so hopefully they'll come through really nicely. Bay leaves are something that we use all the time at home, so it's really handy to have the bay tree here. The last area, which was my project last year, which I'm going to do a little bit more work on, is the pond. Now this area had a small pond in anyway, but the lining had gone, the water was awful, so last year we dug the pond at a really good depth. We researched how to plant the plants around it, and make it a haven for frogs. Now unfortunately no frogs have come because the oxygenating plant has died, so this is another project for me to work on this year, is to get the pond at a really nice standard, let the water settle, find its natural rhythm, and hopefully next year we'll have some frogs to keep the slugs under control. I really like this area. It's a lovely place just to sit. The sun comes down on it and it's really warm and relaxing and tranquil. I have planted some plants around, so we had some spring flowers again a couple of months ago. There's a rose in the back. Now I did plant some lupins last year and I didn't do anything with them, but I'm really pleased that the lupins have come back. I planted some foxgloves, they've died a death, so I'll have to find something else to go there. But only last week I noticed that the hosta has come back. I thought that had been completely devastated by the slugs and the snails, so I am well pleased that that is still here. My plan for this is a little bit fluid. One part of us wants to have spring flowering bulbs, to have more native plants here that will just come back every year, but another part of us wants to put plant pots here so I can have different flowers, move them around each year, change it up. If you've got any suggestions on whether you think I should be putting plants straight into the ground or whether I should do pots, pop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, or if you have a pond, what works for you. So there we go, that's the allotment from top to toe, and we're going to be doing loads of videos on what we're doing and how we're doing and what vegetables we're planting. We're going to share the projects that we do at the allotment. So far you can see there's been a massive transformation from where we were a year and a half to 2 years ago to where we are now. There's loads of tips and tricks that are going to be coming up, so no matter whether you've got a garden at home, whether you've got a yard, whether you've got a window box, you know, that you can grow things in, keep watching the videos. You're going to get loads of advice and help on how to grow in small spaces, how to grow in the open ground. The plot walkthrough we're going to be doing at least once a month, so you'll be able to see how the allotment changes, whether what we're doing works or whether it doesn't. It'll be a warts and all show and tell on the allotment. We don't want to just show the good. I think it's important to see the messy parts, the failures, because that helps us learn what works for us might work for you too. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.